I had to leave. I love Russo. I like when we do shows like that. But it was too frustrating because nobody there was speaking from a point of reality. You just weren't, bro. The statistics of cops shooting black men do not even touch the statistics of black men killing black men. We brutalize our own communities on a daily basis. On a daily basis, to the point where it's getting children involved. It's getting young men involved that are 12, 13. Constant death, bro. Gangs. And we have the older black generation. You've seen it. You've seen it for yourself. This is what we are up against. I can't take this stuff serious, bro. I had to leave because you're so out of touch with reality. They kept going back to Timbuktu, that like we are in 2021. Why can't we progress? She had the nerve to tell me and other black folks, you will never be able to create generational wealth. Says who? Because you say so? Because black people can't do nothing for themselves? Because that's what you told us. We can't do nothing until we get pieces of land. What are these people that have no idea how to live a basic human life and don't commit murders? They don't even have a moral compass. How are they going to utilize land? Please tell us, Lavetta. You want to know what would happen if we asked her that question? Just like I asked her a bunch of other questions, and she give me this right here. Crickets. So we can pay for abortion. I'm gonna skirt around your question. We can't pay for kids to have a quality education in the black community. We got to make sure they stay in these ain't shit schools that that the state will fund. That doesn't mean the teachers are going to teach, because that negative element is still there. Am I far-fetched? Am I a part of reality like everybody else? Or are we all just like floating somewhere and no man's land? It's like, what world are you a part of? You can't be functioning in America talking about racism being woven. Bro, they told me that black people were the only slaves in America. We are lost as a community. We're lost. This is where we are. This is why I go so hard, because that narrative, that language that they spoke on that show is what's being spilled to the younger generation. It was spilled to me. It was spilled to my mother, my mom's mom, and it's never stopped. And I'm tired of it. That was the most frustrating show that I've done in a while, because I had to respect the older folks there. But they clearly weren't respectful to me, because everything I said was taken personal, which is why I said paranoia is what's wrong with the black community. If you're pulled over by a cop, you take it personal. It's because I'm black. They prove that by even trying to argue the theory that white cops are killing black folks at a dramatic rate, and they couldn't even give us valid numbers. I have to pull some of the show up so that you all can see what I'm talking about. Whew. Shelly, what'd you think? Because you were in the comments.
So I came in a little bit late, but once I did come on, I was just like mind blown, to be honest, because I think that when we want to have real conversations, we need to be real about everything, not just what conveniences you. And that's my main problem with people who will critique you, because there was at one point in the show, I believe her name was Levita. She stated that you didn't respect her opinion, and that's why you guys can't have conversations, yet she refused to respect yours. She didn't answer any questions when you asked them directly. She danced around them. And then when we were talking about America, she went and started talking about other parts of the world. Like, can we focus on what the problem is here in America? Because that's where we live. That's who you're asking for reparations from. We're not talking about the other parts of the world. So for me, I was just like, literally, I was like, you're kind of backpedaling on stuff you said. She originally said that, yeah, if you want to go to these choice schools or something like that, to pay for it yourself. She at no point said, well, take the money from here and just invest in the schools we already have. She never said that until Anthony called her on it. Oh, yeah, they're still live. I'm watching
They
on my
are.
cell phone.
Oh my goodness. Hold on.
I'm watching on my cell phone.
I gotta pull this up, guys. You gotta see the nonsense I was dealing with. You have to. These older people are so out of touch, bro.
But when they ask us for our zip code, I know at the end of the day that you just told my county that we just bought $3 million worth of tennis shoes. So I know you ain't gonna fix my school. I already know you're not, because you just saw
you
me
know, you do realize that all the
Okay,
programs. No, you're good. All the programs you brought up, the WIC and the government assistance, and essentially relating it to massa giving, whatever. Those are all, oddly enough, Democrat run programs. No, I know, but I'm saying those things, those the definition of handouts are literally what we've tried to get the lower income communities out of, and that's what the Democrat Party has continued to fund. And that's
I'm talking
part of
shit.
the issue that I have. And I get there's a purpose of welfare, 100%, but it's been misused and misgiven. And that was one thing, by the way, that Ben Carson was actually trying to help with. All right, so moving to who wants to take this question next? Why aren't you sharing it more? Levita.
First, let me thank you. I know we're coming to the end. Let me thank you for the invitation. I appreciate having the conversation, and without, there were a lot of ad hominems thrown back and forth. There was a lot of categorizing in derogatory terms instead of addressing the issue.
Oh my God.
Yes.
Lies.
The issue of race in our country, and
Lies.
over and above anything else, the issue of race in our country. And
God.
as B-Wise indicated, it's more of an economic situation than there is race. I never said that we
Did
can
you guys
never come up, that we
bro, Chelly, listen. She said we will never be able to create generational wealth until we receive land.
Correct.
That land is never coming, you old lady. I want to call you something else, but I'm going to be respectful and classy. You know damn well the government ain't ever giving us no freaking land. So for you to say that we cannot do that until this, shame on you, because you are the downfall of the Black community. We have defeated negative, divisive mindsets like hers. I'm sorry. This lady, she is so intolerant. I don't even want to call her a
money
racist.
or don't make money. I am educated and nobody can take that away from me. But more than anything else,
you're indoctrinated.
The kingdom of God.
Exactly.
And the more we talk about race, the more Anthony, you will be able to understand where I'm coming from. And maybe when you go to bed tonight, you'll think, you know what, Levita might have had a point there. I might not agree with it right now, but I'm gonna meditate on it, because God is gonna make you do that.
But
that's all I have to say.
But I have to ask.
Yes.
You said that we need to talk more about racism so that I understand.
No. Race. About race.
We need to talk more about race so that I understand that you deserve land. You still haven't given. You haven't given me your
point. From A to Z.
Because you haven't actually.
That. That's what I'm saying. Y'all keep putting words in my mouth, man.
So what is the point?
That's not what I said. My point is, Jesus, Anthony.
You don't even have a point. Look at it.
You,
She don't know her point.
I love talking to you,
I
don't.
can't.
but you have
She's gonna get muted. Russo and Casey, come on over to the good side. All right, come on over. Come on. Man, there is no intellectual conversation happening there. It's all feelings based. It's all perception. She kept talking about Indiana as if Indiana represents the entire U.S.
Well, but not
She
only
kept
that,
talking.
but she talked. I'm sorry, Sonia, I didn't mean to cut you off, but just to kind
No,
of
go
when
ahead.
she kept talking about Indiana, like she talked about, oh well, we have a Republican governor. Like people think that the governor governs the state. No, the governor collects a paycheck, period, and all
Facts.
his mayors underneath him, they basically run the state. But again, the governor, I don't care if he's a Republican and he has the most money in the world. He cannot do anything if the legislators for that state are freaking Democrats. Like this is the problem with uneducated people who try to sound educated, because she had to remind everybody, I think like several times, that she was educated. You are indoctrinated. That is exactly what went into my head. Because again, I don't care who your governor is. Your governor cannot make any moves without the people, without the representatives of that state. Period. And what do? They play the red and blue party, and blue is always going to fucking fight whatever red wants, even if it's for the best interest of the people. And then I don't know what his name is. He used to be a police officer, I believe. But
Be wise.
right. So he had made a comment. What the hell did he say? Sorry, that show has me with a million thoughts. And that one just slipped my damn head. It'll come back to me though. Sorry. You guys know I got chicken nugget brain. So
Benner.
it'll come back.
Yo, you can come on here if you want. I wasn't planning on doing another show. After the one I just got off of, but that is a mentality that I'm fighting against. I refuse to let young Black people hear her talk and take that as a reality for them, because it's not true. It's not true. And when I brought up my uncle, you know, she got my uncle's tapes. You have him in your house as a Black man. Well, he did it. Okay, so why can't he be a testament to other young Black men and women? You can do this too.
Well, not only that, but then she, like, when we talked about Ben Carlson, right away, she kind of got negative about him. Oh, he's not qualified. And I'm like, okay, so what would make Ben Carson qualified to run? I believe it was HUD. Was it HUD?
Yep.
So you're saying that a neurosurgeon, a well-renowned neurosurgeon who had to have fucking the most education anyone can actually endure, right, in order to be a successful neurosurgeon, is not qualified to run something like fucking HUD? Like, make that make sense to me. And I'm not trying to attack her, right, because I'm here for the conversations, but I just cannot deal with the hypocrisy. Like, you're backpedaling. What's good for you is not good for anybody else. And that does not make sense to me.
She's talking about how Biden is good. Guys, I have to, you need to see this in action. This is a disconnect in the Black community. This is absolutely atrocious.
That's my point.
Okay. Sorry, I know B-Wise,
Give
I
us
think I have to
land.
go. Everybody's got their story, and unfortunately in this country, race is one of them. But if we continue to lean onto race being this great differentiator, how do we grow? And you still haven't. I've asked for a point, and somehow you talked about Biden leveling the playing field. The only thing that's ground that he has to walk on so he doesn't fall over. What?
Yeah, there you go.
That's a joke. I had to have a little joke, but honestly, tell me one thing. Tell me one thing. I want to continue. I don't want to. I'm not blowing everybody up on the show, but you haven't. I've asked you for a very direct point.
But
what
I did, and you didn't.
Haven't.
And you didn't listen. You're not hearing me because of all of the filters that you have to go through to hear my point.
What's the point?
There you go. Anthony, Anthony, until we as an American people, until we as a group of people begin to understand that regardless of what happens from 1982 to 2022 to whatever, we are not going to level
She don't know
or
what the fuck she's saying.
right with the African American people until we have gotten a leg up on land, on opportunities. And I keep saying land because that's the only real estate that counts.
She's so stupid because even when you own land, it is still not your freaking land because you pay taxes on it. You pay taxes on property that you own. This is what I mean by Black folks being indoctrinated. They're not educated. There's no intellect in that conversation. I was so freaking annoyed. I felt like I was sitting there listening to old school militant ass Negroes that are stuck. Slavery was abolished. That was the first sign of America saying, we are sorry, this is wrong. You then had your amendments, your rights written. They gave you extra amendments, and you're going to say America didn't do enough? You self-centered, selfish ass motherfuckers. Yes, I said it.
Oh,
selfish and self-centered.
He's dropping the curse words.
Woo!
Jesus, take the wheel.
What's up, Banner? How you doing?
What's up? About time. It's been a while. You was trying to get me on here, so yeah, I want to join the last one, but no way, I couldn't get in on it. I was staying out of that. So
it's too much.
Yeah.
That's why when you sent me a link, I was like, wait, what's this for? Because I was like, I'm not opening up into this shit show because I've had enough just listening to it. You already know how I felt because I was messaging you in your inbox. I was like,
she really was. And I wanted to say the points, but they kept talking. And every time I would talk, all three of the old ass people, no, what you mean? I didn't say that.
Well, I showed up like 5 minutes late, and so I got on just to kind of catch up where the conversation was. And then I was just waiting for a moment where I'm like, okay, the subject's going to change. Okay, the subject's going to change. And it never did. You got Casey sitting there. He hadn't said nothing the whole time. I was just like, oh, man, I'm staying out of this.
Oh, God. Suni, how do we help this mentality, though, if you don't engage? I don't mind engaging, but I know when I've had my limit, which is why I said, look, I'm out. I can't do this conversation.
For 2 hours.
I did. It's closed off. She kept throwing her age. I got a master's degree. I don't give a shit because your master's degree ain't translating in basic conversation. You can't even answer a question. None of them answered any questions. This dude, Be Wise, kept talking about slavery, the legacy of slavery. I'm just like, bro, what does that have to do with 2021? Go listen to some Thomas Sowell and free your mind. Good God.
Yeah, and you did engage, just to answer that, whoever said that. You engaged for 2 hours. I'm just saying. We've been live now 19 minutes, and they've been live 2 hours, 19 minutes, and 30 seconds. So she engaged for 2 hours. And sometimes you have to know when to walk away.
Yeah.
There is where we can have a healthy conversation and we can go back and forth. But there comes a point where if you continue to beat your head on a wall, it will hurt. So there's a time to walk away. It's simple.
So
yeah,
honestly,
they're still going. I'm literally.
They are.
I'm watching them myself.
They spoke on a lot of topics, but the one that they were most ignorant on was the cop situation. We didn't even really get into that because they made it so much about race. Correct. So much about race. Like we couldn't even have the conversation that we wanted to have, which is how these people escape and elude ever having to give you a factual answer or as to why they believe what they believe. None of them could answer how many people. None of them knew what the statistics were. They didn't know because they're all talking from a place of straight up feeling.
Yeah. I was like, what, did I miss that part of the show? I was in the comments. I was like, wait.
Well, coming from my background, the whole police officer situation, it comes from the lack of training. So I'm a 13-year combat vet, and I see how we do things, you know, in Afghanistan, and how we train on what's the word I'm looking for detaining somebody, and it's on a whole different level. I wouldn't say defund police, right? It's about reforming. They need to allocate funds and time to training. Like in the military, we'd spend 80% of our time training on situations, and then 20%, if that, on execution. And police officers are always out there just executing. They don't get the time. They don't have designated time to train and to work together on things and to refine what they do. And it just, they don't get enough training, and they go out there and they go to a 6-month course, and then they get thrown out in the streets, right? So I think it comes down to training and how they do things, like subduing somebody. The military, it's 10 times better, the different techniques that we use, than what police officers use. And yeah, it sucks being a police officer these days. I'll tell you what. I mean, watching Tim Pool and those guys, they've got police officers resigning across the country in masses. And I don't blame them.
So I kind of agree. I agree with you on there needs to be better training. I don't agree with you that they only do 6 months and then there's no training. I totally disagree with that.
Yeah, definitely.
I've lived through it. I've lived through it. I do way more training. This is the problem. When we have all these other entities trying to put reform in a department that they know nothing about, that's where the problems come in. Right. So we have been in reform for years. People don't talk about it because it's not fitting a certain narrative, especially in a city where we're run by Democrats and there is a certain push for something and they have to appease the people, so they can't really talk about certain things because that's not what the people want to hear. So in regards to the training, I agree that we need more training, but I also think that you can't have that training from people who don't know how to train. Period. Like I think we have something called LEMAR training, where they do live scenarios. You you get shot, etc. How do you play it out, etc. Stuff like that. And those you actually are taken off. You're taken to the academy. You put through all these scenarios. Unfortunately, there are no funds to have that course repeatedly, because that's what you should be teaching, right? Those are the things. A lot of the training, when they come down, like the consent decree. Let's just talk about the consent decree for a second, just so people kind of have a better understanding. You want all these changes, and I'm talking about 700 and something page changes for police departments for reform. And now you give them a timeline for, let's say, 13,000 people. Right. And you're pushing that timeline. So guess what? A lot of the training stuff that they're doing is online. So I sit in front of a computer for an hour, 2 hours, and guess how much of that do I retain? If it is happening every single day. Very minimal. Yep. Very minimal. And then for it to have training, when it comes to like stuff like LEMAR, like actual scenarios, like how do we do this? How do we do that? Let's go over like some tactics. Let's go over some compliance things. There's not enough people, literally. So people want to talk about defunding the police, and they don't understand how actually putting more money into the department can give them all the tools they need to better their department. And then let's talk about training. Who is training us? Yeah,
a lot of us, like here, we've trained the military departments, and I don't think.
Where are you at?
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I just said where are you from?
I'm in Utah. I've been all over the world though. you know. So
Oh, well, see, and just like police departments, people don't understand that it varies from municipality to municipality.
Yeah.
Like, I have seen some departments that have like top-notch equipment.
right.
And I was like, holy crap, like, I wish I had that.
But have they been trained to utilize that equipment? You know, I don't think
Well,
police.
so maybe not, but I'm still saying, like, even just like, I'm talking about basic equipment. Like my grandchild could use the basic stuff, but it's like top-notch equipment. It comes back fast, less time, all these kind of things that like play into like when you are in the middle of a traffic stop. If people are truly rushing, they're going to get irritated because your damn computers take forever to come back with a damn name.
Yeah.
You're cutting into their time. You know what I mean? So there's so many things that we can change. And again, I think like reform starts with what they don't talk about. They always, whenever there's anything involving police, it's always the people in uniform that they're talking about. But guess what? We're the bottom. The people in uniform are the bottom feeders. They don't make choices. They don't make any of that stuff. They deal with the grunts of the shit because they're the ones out there dealing with the people every day. And they're putting into action these laws that people who have never, ever been in the military or who have ever know anything about police, anything, and they're making rules for them.
Yeah.
So my thing is, let's start talking about the real problems behind it.
Yeah. Well, what's
And
the
they-
what's the one thing common for all these people, right? Whether you're white, black, purple, red, they're all resisting arrest. You know,
Yeah.
everyone
Exactly.
else fighting back. You know, you don't have police officers clapping somebody who's in compliance, right? Like,
And that's what
stupid prizes, you know. So
that's right. And Suni, when you guys were talking like a little bit about stuff on your earlier on that show, like I said, I thought maybe I missed the part when you guys were talking about police stuff. And what you said they couldn't give you numbers.
Yeah.
And I have like literally gone over this. We've done shows on it.
Yeah.
And they start talking about, well, we're only 13%, and this is how many, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, okay, well, then if that's the case, then how come when you give them numbers and tell them, well, police officers in America make up 0.25% of the population? They're not even 0.5%. They're 0.25% of the population. And they are killed 20% higher. And that's just by male blacks alone. We're not considering the Latinos against that are shooting at police officers, or the white people. That's just black alone.
Yep.
So my thing is, and don't get me wrong, I really wish that we would get rid of always just kind of making sure that it's labeled black against white or police against black. I really wish we would get rid of the labels. But if you're going to throw those labels at me and you're going to throw that, I'm going to hit you back with facts. You're 13% of the population. We're 0.25% of the population. And we are killed 20% higher by just black men. They don't want to hear that. They don't want to hear it. And guess what? Banner talked about compliance. You know how many incidents happen when you comply? It's less than 1%.
yeah, handle your shit in court, man. Like, if you feel like you're unfair, take it to court. Like, go get arrested, spend the night in jail.
Well,
and handle it in court. I mean, you're not going to win. You want to throw down with a cop for one thing. Okay, now you can get hit with resistance. You know, resistance. And it just makes shit worse. I don't get it. Like,
well, this is my thing too. Like, this is kind of a point that's been kind of sticking in my head lately. So if we're terrified, right? And I'm talking about minorities, right? I'm not going to say black, Hispanic, just minorities. If we're terrified of the police, why are there so many interactions with police?
Straight like that. Straight facts.
Because if I'm terrified, guess what? I'm not mouthing off. I'm not mouthing off. So it's like that's literally been sticking in my head for probably the last 2 weeks. Like, make that make sense to me. Just make it make sense to me. And then, God forbid, it doesn't even matter if you're a black officer, you're Uncle Tom, you're a coon. When I tell you that they get it the worst during these like protests, etc., They
Yep.
get it the worst. Like they literally get it the worst. They get talked
Man.
mad shit too.
You talking about police officers?
Black police
Oh,
officers.
oh yeah.
They
Police
get it.
officers have
They get it the
hardest
fucking
job.
worst.
Yeah, they have the hardest job. Like I said, I'm a combat vet, and I'll tell you what, police have it way harder than we do. I deployed for a year. I got home, and I turned off the switch. Right? Those guys have to turn that fucking switch off and on every day. Go back to their families. Go back to it. Work around a bunch of people who hate them, not knowing who likes them, who doesn't. I always give props to police officers because they have the hardest job. They go to war every day and have to come home and flip that switch off and not bring whatever happened to work. They don't bring it home to the little kids and their
Right.
family. They do that every day. Think about police officers who do this 20 years. Imagine the shit they have seen and gone through, and no one appreciates it. Everyone.
Oh, trust
people
me,
work
I
at
know.
Walmart. They go work their cozy ass jobs, and they just want to hate on police officers. And it's just they have to deal with some rough stuff. And I feel bad for them at this point, right? So
And they're leaving at a ridiculous rate.
yeah, they're
Like
dropping,
literally,
signing all over the place.
usually like in Chicago, you have like when they give out the test, you literally have between 20 and 30,000 people apply. Every time. Every time. You know how many applied this time? Less
How
than
many?
3,000.
Wow.
And when I tell you if you go back between 20 and 30,000 each test, the waiting list literally is years. I waited 4 years. 4 years from the time I took the test. And now less than 3,000. Honestly, I don't know who would want to be a police officer in today's day and age, especially, and not to make this political, but especially in Democrat-ran cities.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah. If I
You have zero support.
if I want to be a police officer, I would not be in a blue state. I'll tell you that. No way. I
You're
wouldn't be.
absolutely.
If I was destined to be a police officer, that's my career I wanted. It would not be any kind of blue state that are playing this game. No.
You're
way.
absolutely right.
I'd want to be in a state that would have my back if something happened, right? And it's not going to play this
Facts.
woke. It's not going to play this woke game. Yeah.
They're still alive.
They are.
Oh, that.
So Russo's
the
going to be
subject
coming
changed
over
yet?
here, and what'd you say?
Has the subject changed yet?
No, it hasn't, and it won't. This is
Oh, they're saying
It's
goodbye
not-
right now, I think.
yeah. As much as I don't like talking about race because it's not a big deal. I feel like it's spilled milk, and we're just like spreading it all over the table purposely, just to have something to complain about. But this, unfortunately, I have to because this mindset is what's speaking to the Black youth, to my mother, and she passed it down to me. Like I said on the show, it's like a never-ending cycle of generational. I call it a curse, where you tell somebody over and over and over, the world doesn't like you, you're Black. Over and over and over. Cops don't like you, you're Black. You can't do this, you're Black. And that's what they hear all the time. And I'm sorry, but I have to speak against that. Like how can I have a platform and say I care if I don't call this shit out, bro? Because it's dangerous. It's so dangerous.
And I think people don't realize that when you continue to live there, right? When you continue to victimize yourself, that is exactly what you're going to be.
Mhm.
That is, you're going to carry all this hurt, all these things that you're claiming that you have. And I'm not saying that they don't feel some type of way, but again, the world does not run on feelings.
Yeah.
Like when you tell somebody they can't, they're going to grow believing they can't. They're worthless, they're useless. And that is the problem that we are seeing in our communities today with minorities, people in these low poverty neighborhoods. You keep telling them that they can't and that they're a piece of shit and that they're gonna, I mean, I literally have dealt with families who literally are telling their kids, you're a piece of shit.
Yeah.
You ain't gonna never amount to shit. You ain't about shit. You're like your daddy, he ain't shit. Or you're like your mama, she ain't shit. And guess what? You tell them that long enough, and that is what they're gonna believe. And what people like Lavita, I believe her name was, what they don't want to address, right? Because they want to focus on race and the white man holding them down and how everything is against them. But you're not talking about the people you know that are holding you down.
Facts.
You're not talking, and I'm not talking about black on black crime. I'm talking about parents being parents. We're not talking about that. We're not talking about choices that you made and put you in a situation where you are at. That's the bottom line. And I can speak on it because I come from it.
Facts.
Like, we need to be real. And I think the problem is that we cannot have real conversations with people who walk around like this. It's not going to work.
Indiana has, they tried to work with charter schools and it didn't work. I'm like, okay, so where has it worked? It didn't work in Indiana, but where did it work? Well, I'm gonna talk about other countries. I'm like,
right.
Yeah,
and she's like, I got a master's degree. And I'm like, listen, you have a master's, but I surpass you in this conversation to the point where you're getting frustrated because you can't answer my questions.
Well, just because also I hate when people think that just because you're book smart makes you superior to anyone. Because guess what? You can be as book smart as you want to be, and go out in the street and talk to these kids in these neighborhoods, and they're not going to understand a fucking word you're saying. And they don't care how book smart you are.
They don't.
Like, book smart has nothing to do with understanding culture. And people, this is the problem that I have, and I'll speak for Latinos. We don't want to talk about the real issues. We don't want to talk about the fact that there are parents today, we have our babies having babies, and you're continuing those cycles. And I'm not saying people that have babies at a young age can't be successful. I had my first child when I was 16.
Yeah.
And I am very successful. But guess what? I didn't accept that just because I had a baby, that's the only thing I was going to do. I was going to just be on welfare, and I was going to just take whatever the government gave me. I actually never even was on welfare. My mother worked her whole life. I worked. I supported my child on my own. I went to school, and I didn't accept that was my destination. And people don't want to talk about real issues. We don't want to talk about the real issues in our community. We don't want to talk about, who holds us back? Guess what? I promise you that a white person never held me back. Never in my life did a white person say, nope, not you. You can't do it.
What, she have a master's
Never.
in? Underwater basket weaving or something like that?
Bro, I don't freaking know, but it wasn't
Liberal arts.
Something that I didn't
Hold
know.
on. My dad was Archie Bunker. Are you serious? Wow. Listen, even though Archie Bunker was racist, they came together on comedy. Like that was his mentality, and he's entitled to that. Let him have it.
But you know what? Like, think about it, right? Like, when I was younger, that was All in the Family, right? That was my favorite show. Now, mind you, he talked about everybody.
Yes.
There was a Hispanic guy. He talked shit about him. There was the Jeffersons. He talked shit about them. But you know what the problem is that we had a sense of humor back then.
Yes, we did.
And today there's like
about everything.
That's right. Yes, because again, today we focus on feelings, and people don't understand. Feelings don't run the world. Feelings has gotten your ass absolutely nowhere.
Listen. Oh dang! What happened to Charlie? She just froze. Wait a minute. I'm gonna take her down until she comes back.
Perfect.
She looked. That is dope. I was just I was just listening to somebody talk about Archie Bunker and how the fact that he didn't like black people really didn't matter because, like we just said, they came together to create timeless TV shows, and it was on a level of comedy and just creating something. I think if we got back to that and just recognized people are people, okay? You just seen one of the most racist, in my opinion. This is what I think of the lady. I think she was probably the definition, a textbook of a black racist. When you asked her questions, especially centered around the inner city, the school voucher system will pay for it yourself. Those people are struggling, right? You want us to meet their need, and meeting their need would be offering their children an education. No, you need to put money into the shitty school that's going to continue being shitty. What type of mentality is that? You're not helping. You're creating this. You are creating the perpetual victim, angry, poverty-stricken mentality and lifestyle that we're dealing with now. That's the only thing I could draw from her and what she was asking for. The government needs to give me my land, and if you can't afford it, figure it out.
Yeah.
I can say that.
Yeah,
But you Republicans, you can't say that. You can't tell people to pick themselves up by the bootstraps, but you can tell them to do it when it comes to school. Okay. Logic. She wanted that 40 acres and a mule, bro.
Yeah. I only watched most of that. I didn't last. I last more than
He said I didn't last.
I'd get come back like 15 minutes later. He'd still be talking about
Still.
it. Like a little piece. I heard someone brought up like Afghanistan in the conversation.
That was her.
It was her.
Yes.
What was she talking about?
Who knows?
I don't even know. I honestly don't even know what the point was.
It was when you asked her a question and you were asking her about stuff that happens here, and then she was talking about America, and then she couldn't answer the question. So of course she had to deflect and start talking about other shit. We're like, hold up, sis. I was like, whoop. Like when people do that, you know, you guys should start doing that on shows. I'm gonna do it on my show too. You know, we are doing when people start reflecting like that, we should just mute their ass and be like, hold up, sis. Let's circle back.
Let's come back.
They could relate. She could relate to that because she thinks Biden is amazing. So let's circle back.
I'm fumbling over my words. Look, Russo was like, Biden hasn't talked to the black community. She started laughing. He hasn't done anything geared towards the African American community in his first 100 days. He cared about immigration, COVID, and climate change.
Actually, I don't think he cared about immigration at all because it's a fucking
I don't either. But that was where their attention was directed. Last time I checked, 2 black men were shot unarmed. Actually, a psychopath wielding a knife that was just so happened to be 16 was shot. Somebody that was resisting arrest and getting in her car to drive off was accidentally shot. Adam Toledo had a gun and officers had to make a quick decision. There's 4 people that were actively doing something that was going to negatively affect them. According to their mentality, the officer should have let her stab that little girl in the neck, or the older woman, however old she was, doesn't matter. Should have let her stab her, die, send Ma'Khia to jail. Let's continue the cycle.
Yeah, that story was just
the officer would have been.
Police officer was damned if he did and damned if he
Yep.
didn't. Like,
Correct.
if he didn't do anything, it would have been white officer didn't intervene and let a young black girl get stabbed by another black girl because he's racist, or like he was damned either way. Like he was so screwed.
You're exactly right. And had he allowed it, it would have been right away fired, inattentive to duty.
Yeah, that is. Excuse me, but if someone's coming after me with a knife and I don't have one of my own, shoot his ass. Shoot his
Period.
ass a couple times.
Period.
Right?
Make sure he don't get back up. Shit.
Facts.
five
I'm
arms,
shooting to
let me
kill.
know. But yeah, if that's my daughter outside gonna get stabbed, shoot the bitch trying to stab her. I don't give a shit. Anything.
But that's
Like,
I don't
that's
care.
that's
when I saw that come up and that's been a deal, I was blown
Mhm.
away. That was cut fucking dry.
Yep.
Girl pulls out a big ass, what was like 5-inch fucking steak
It was
knife.
big.
You can see it. Comes out, swinging it at her. He shoots her. That is like police officer's duty 101. Like,
Papa.
the fact that that even blew up or was in question, I was blown away. I'm like, I've lost faith. Like, this is ridiculous. Like, that was so cut and dry. What he was supposed to do, and like that is his role. I don't know. I just threw it up. No,
I
way.
want to bust up one of their bubbles. Okay? Because I believe in facts.
I love facts.
You can't even say truth anymore because, as you can see, according to Lavetta, however she reads a definition is what it translates to at that moment in time.
Well, no, she said it translates basically to what she.
Okay.
What was the word she used? So
I have no
basically,
idea, girl.
the way that when she reads what racism is, it's what it means to her in that moment, is what she said. I was like, girl, bah.
My truth, their truth, we all got truth. There's only one fact. There's a fact. Statistics don't lie. Words don't lie. Nick Cannon meant exactly what he said here. I'm going to play this for you. And hopefully she's watching so she can get. She said she was going to school me, but I think I'm taking my time to school her on society and culture in 2021.
Then let's go to what it really is.
Can you guys hear
When we
that?
talk about the power of melanated people.
Okay.
When we talk about who we really are as guys and
Right.
understanding that our melanin is so powerful and it connects us in a way that the reason why they fear black, the reason why they fear is because the lack that they have of it. So then when you see what Dr. Francis C. Welsing talked about is that fear in that
Just genetic
that
annihilation.
deficiency of when you have a person that has the lack of pigment, the
Right.
lack of melanin,
Right.
that they know that they will be annihilated. So therefore, however they got the power, they have the lack of compassion. That melanin comes with compassion. Melanin comes with soul that we call it soul. We soul brothers and sisters.
So did you heard how many lies he spewed out, and that was 46 seconds. He said melanated people have compassion. Lavetta proves that they don't. Not. I will say. I'm gonna say a large portion have lost that capability to have compassion or care about anything other than themselves, and Lavetta proved that. The murder rate proves that.
But
Shelly
they
can
didn't
talk
wanna
about that.
They didn't want to talk about black on black crime.
Because it wasn't a problem.
Because to them, they're still on core math. 1 and 1 is 3.
Did you hear that guy when I said children can't even play anymore? Like, it's to the point where they're not safe playing outside anymore. Well,
Yeah.
kids ain't playing outside, no way. So that is your response to a 3-year-old being shot dead at his birthday party, sitting outside.
Correct.
But you want to hoop and holler over a criminal that resisted, a crackhead that acted a fool, a trap queen with her boyfriend shot, which is the only reason why police shot at her. And technically, if we want to get all the way into it, according to him or according to the report, but how did she take all the bullets while he didn't? We'll never know.
Well, are you talking about Breonna?
Yeah.
So if they actually look at the report, because it's out there, it's the Attorney General actually put out the whole report, and I'm talking about evidence, whatever videos, all that shit they had. It's all out there. The bottom line is, it is a lot to read and filter through.
Yeah.
So people like that cast will never take the time to read it. You know why? Because they don't give a fuck about the facts.
Yep.
They care about the narrative. And when you tell people something for a long time, there are people who are like this, that's all
Yeah.
they hear. They're not gonna look at the evidence based on what is being presented. And at the end of the day, somebody shot at the police and the police shot
Mhm.
back. So
Yeah.
am I supposed to have x-ray vision and look through walls and see who's shooting at me, or am I just going to try to eliminate whatever's in front of me?
Mm-hmm.
If I'm standing there and I feel someone's breaking into my house or whatever, right? I'm going to do what I have to do, right? But again, do you think that I'm going to be telling my children, stand right here next to me?
Yeah.
If I think someone is truly breaking into my house, I'm going to be like, hide, run, I got this.
Yep. Yep.
Stand right next to me so we could both get dead. Like, this is the thing, is like people don't really stop and think. Like, people don't stop and think. Right away, they want to focus on feelings, and media is the biggest damn issue. They talk
They are
during that show.
weaponizing the hell out of this. It's
Yes.
just
During that show, they were talking about, oh, well, can you name anything else where people are talking about, like, where it's just like black males getting killed by the police, or shooting the narrative, or where the news doesn't talk about that it's not racist. It's only when it comes to black people, because they were talking about the media shows. One of them was agreeing that the media shows what they want to show. So I wrote in the comments, Adam Toledo. He was not black.
I didn't see that.
I wrote it in the comments. I was like, Adam Toledo. He's not black. He's Hispanic. And they're over here doing all their little shenanigans to, talking about, oh, the police that are out here killing minorities. I'm like, yeah, because they're fucking running around with guns and trying to shoot the police.
Mm.
Like, the whole Adam Toledo case, look, I'm never going to say that it's okay. Anyone who dies is tragic. No one should lose their life before God comes and takes it naturally, right? But at the end of the day, if we're running down an alley, you know how long alleys are in Chicago?
Who?
They are literally alleys. He's running down an
okay.
alley, Adam Toledo. He's running down an alley, right? The alleys here, I can tell you, are a block long, one whole block long. We have long alleys. You know how many times he had to just throw his hands up?
A whole lot. He
Stop,
had ample
drop,
time.
roll, whatever you want to do. Drop the gun. Officer, I have a gun in my waist. Even at the time where he's leaning on that fence, he has a time, instead of even moving towards the police, just throw your hands up. Stay where you're at. Because had he threw his hands up and he's sideways and his hands just go straight up, do you think he would have got shot?
No.
I say no.
Here are the statistics from 2018. They haven't released 2019 yet.
I don't know. What is that for?
This
Oh,
is the
racism.
FBI murder. Numbers don't lie.
Just released it.
Okay. 2,600 black on black murders, offenders as well. So you're telling me 20 is more important than 2,600? And that's including children, by the way.
Mm-hmm.
The last year was absolutely disgusting for the murders in Chicago. And this is before I even met Shelly. I used to do a show every Tuesday. And I would wait for the week to pass on purpose, because I'm like, I want to give a week to pass to see what positivity I could pull out of the news, out of what's happening. And I kid you not, every Tuesday, I had at least 6 to 7 murders to talk about in Chicago alone. Every Tuesday. But police on black brutality that's what's important. And that's why we're going to stay until people wake up. This is where we're going to be.
Hey,
I'm going to forever be
lost-
doing these shows.
They lost Donald Trump. They got to find something else to talk about.
This is current. This is current in Chicago. So the first screen is just this one here is just from April. So we have 48 shot and killed. We have 226 shot and wounded. Total shot 274, 52 homicides.
But
just for a week, between 425. Oh, I can't see that shit.
where?
Hold on a second. Let me switch to the other screen. Okay, so here. Well, it's saying up until May 1st, but we're not even at May 1st yet. So, so just for 1 week, shot and killed 5, shot and wounded 27, and this is 1 week. And mind you, today is what? Today is the 27th. So this is from April 24th. So this is in 2 days. 5 shot and killed, 27 shot and wounded, 32 total shot, total 5 homicides. Year to date, from January 1st till now, we have 183 shot and killed, 828 shot and wounded. Total shot, 1,011. Total homicides, 195.
Okay. But police are killing us. Oh, okay.
One of the most gun-controlled and gun-restricted cities in the nation.
Thank you.
So with
Thank
our
you.
current stats right now, a person is wounded every 2 hours and 46 minutes. Murdered every 14 minutes. And this tells you exactly where people were killed. So it gives you like the addresses, the neighborhoods. It gives you like all that. Here's a homicide map really quick. This is Inglewood, predominantly Black.
Good Lord.
Grand Crossing. This is mixed. Austin, predominantly Black. Garfield Park, predominantly Black. North Lawndale is mixed. Hispanic, it's minority, Hispanic, Black. Auburn Gresham is mixed. Humboldt Park, mixed. This is,
And these are
by
just
the way,
neighborhoods. These are just
correct.
neighborhoods. These aren't cities. These are just neighborhoods.
These are neighborhoods in the city of Chicago. This is the
In the city
neighborhood
of
I
Chicago,
live
that's
in.
crazy. Imagine 15 people being shot and killed in your neighborhood.
Correct. And this is where I live, by the way. West Pullum, Chatham, South Shore. These are all Black. Roseland, Washington Heights. This is predominantly Latino, South Chicago, Chicago Lawn. Most of them. Here are the numbers, just Chicago. In 2020, 165, so 165 in Chicago in 2020. That I think, what the hell is that? Homicide trend.
That's wrong.
Yeah,
It's
it is
over
wrong.
700 something.
I was gonna say it's wrong. That's not right. So I don't know what the trend means. I don't know what that means. I don't know if that's in a month, a day, a year.
Yeah, that's weird. Oh, there's Russo. Russo.
Hey, sorry, had to have a little bit of dinner, and then you know what's weird
What?
is they do. I think there's trolls out there now just like submitting claims against like audio. I get that almost every show now. We didn't even use anything. It was literally based off my own. The segment that they were contesting was theirs and trying to monetize was my own voice introducing the show.
Really?
They're just out there trying to make them dollar bills.
Well, you were patient. I commend you. I couldn't tolerate that conversation. I said, you know what? This is not a conversation based in reality. Like those conversations, we have those a lot in the Black community, and that's why we're still here. Because it's never, even if we ain't even talking about solutions, man, can we talk about trade-offs? Can we talk about, hey, let's maybe put police to the side right now and talk about this, which is what's really obliterating us off of the planet. I don't know.
You know, I liked parts of the conversation, and I liked everybody. I like that everybody lent a different voice because I think it shows. I think it showed different issues that everybody has. I mean, we're all different. I really enjoyed Sadiq at points. He did like to talk over you once in a while. But he also spoke the least. He definitely spoke the least, and he was kind of on the bottom. And Wise, honestly, like I feel like Wise, if there's somebody that's like right there, Wise is right there. Like he even talks about how he's made it, how he's been able to do all these different things, and all this positivity that he brings into the world. That sometimes he might just stress past racism a hair too much.
Mm-hmm.
But I think I was, because him and I, when I say we got into it on Instagram, I think I told you that. I told you on that one. I was like,
Yeah, I seen it.
what the hell? And then I realized he's just passionate, and we have slightly different opinions, but I don't think he's that far off. Whereas I don't know what world 40 acres and a mule is ever going to actually happen.
40 acres and a mule. Black folks in poverty can't get vouchers. No, they need to go to these schools that are already here. I'm like, can't you see they don't work? No matter how much money you put into them, those teachers don't want to be there because those kids are bad as shit. They don't.
And I don't think school choice is perfect, but you gotta try. You gotta start somewhere. I mean, she was talking about how economically we were talking about economically how that's the big inequality in the Black community, and then saying, well, if they want to go to a better school, they need to pay for it. What, like, that to me was like that was troubling. And my mom asked after the show when her and I talked, she was like, she didn't really mean 40 acres and a mule. And I was like, oh no. I gave her the option to change it to, maybe like, a building or like what, like multiple like housing or like whatever. No, she wanted 40 acres of land, which I don't know what anybody would like. If you gave me 40 acres of land, I would say, and what's that, Banner?
I'd love that too. I'd love 40 acres given to me.
But if you didn't have the economics behind it, who would you not put, like, how would you put a house? How would you get electricity put out there? Like, how would you, like, then you're still relying on the government to do more stuff.
They didn't think that far, Russo. They're like, I want my land. I don't know how I'm gonna push it on it, but I'm gonna ask the government to do that anyway.
Yeah, I don't know, man. That was a whole interesting conversation. And then Elena was like, we don't need anything from the white community, but we do. Like there was like two different sides to it. She's like, and I don't know if you were still on the show at that part. It was like, I just want for us. I want for our people. And I'm like, that you totally have that right. Mm-hmm. But to not realize that you need police. And Suni, I don't know if you've heard me talk, but I've used your example over and over and over again now. The one that when you had the epiphany on that late night show and we were talking about Ma'Khia Bryant, you were like, I know what this is all about. You're like, do you remember your epiphany?
Was it? I have
the master plan of getting rid of the Shelleys of the world, getting rid of the police of this world.
Oh yeah.
Go ahead, say it. It was brilliant. I realized
you
now
say
how much difference. What's that?
I don't remember the exact words I used. I know what you're talking about, but I can't remember what I said.
So you said that by getting rid of the police, what's happening is they're calling police crimes on Black people genocide when it's very minimal in numbers. But if you get rid of police in the already bad areas that are economically impoverished, the crime rate's going to go up. They're going to start killing each other at an already higher rate, which is already happening as is. So we're perpetrating this mass misinformation campaign against police officers, and we're going to make it so that they're Black. Woody is Black and brown, so he took offense to all of this conversation. My dog just had a freak out moment. So with that, what you said was essentially they're getting to a point where they have a reason to pull police out of these areas. They're not going to invest in the communities. All they're going to do is kill each other at a higher rate, and there is going to be it's a population control against Black communities, and that might be the master plan of Democrats and Republicans. They don't give a shit. They're both the same.
I think it is. I think it is, man. Like there's no other way to describe it. There's no other way that we have been voting 57 years for our Democrat policies and nothing has changed. Like literally nothing. It has gotten worse. Welfare destroyed the Black community. before the like mid 19th century, we were in family units. When they lied on there and they were like slaves weren't families, yes, the freak they were. What are you talking about? They lived in these huts with 10, 7, 8 other people in there, their kids, their grandma. They were family units. The family units didn't break up until we got progressive democratic policies. And that's a fact. Fact check me on it.
No,
You're right.
you're absolutely right. Absolutely right. And I think that exactly what you said. I think that is the actual bigger plan to defund the police, because what communities are going to hurt the most when that happens?
Minorities.
Minority communities. Minority communities will hurt the most. I think that is the bigger plan, and I think that people are not seeing it. And who's putting these plans into motion? And what I don't understand is how you can complain about all the things that America has done to you, yet you jump on the bandwagon of the party who created the systemic racism that you suffer from or that you're talking about.
Somebody's got to let
It
her know
just-
also what socially
it
conservative is.
What? I don't believe in abortion. I'm like, I even asked her, what is socially conservative? You either are or you aren't. You attach all these labels to yourself and you confuse that. I think she confused her damn self, because we would ask questions and she would be like, wait, ask again? It's gonna be the same question you already heard.
Let me talk about Africa and Europe. Swear to God, she did that. She did that twice when you asked her a question. She talked about like other nations. She never. It was like instant deflect. I was telling Suni, when that happens on your show, you should just pause them, like mute them, and be like, "Hold on, wait, let's circle back."
What happened to StreamYard? Because when you mute somebody, they're allowed to unmute themselves. How do I change
don't
that
know.
setting?
I have
That's
no
some
idea.
bullshit. I was like, Suni's never going to be able to talk. They keep unmuting themselves.
You know what it was? Man, I represent Candace Owens to them. They do not like me. You could tell from the beginning of the conversation. I am the logic that walks in the room that says we have this issue too. Like they try to say you can't compare black on black crime and police. Yes, we can, because one surpasses the other, and you're crying about one while ignoring the other. Kids don't play outside, no way. They're so desensitized. They are so desensitized to black death by black. It's not even funny. It's not even funny. It's sickening.
And my dude Sadiq has got like, it's interesting. His kids haven't played out. He hasn't seen kids playing outside, which is sad, in decades probably, because that's St. Louis. St. Louis has been a crap city forever, and that's that's progressing over all these major cities in the country, one by one, because we celebrate. Go ahead, Shelly.
No, sorry. Go ahead. Finish.
No, that was it. We celebrate criminals. That's what leading. Like if we don't give accountability to the people that are getting arrested and doing the wrong, and when the police makes a mistake, it makes zero sense. Like the easiest answer is always the path of least resistance. Path of least resistance is what's the same situation 99% of the time when a black person is killed by a police officer, whether it's armed or unarmed. They are resisting arrest or they are armed. If you can fix that one, that is the number one problem. Because let me tell you, a racist cop against you can have a KKK cop with his partner there, and if there is a black person, as much as they hate that person, if they fully comply, they're going to be just fine, because there's body cams, there's all these fail safes. The only thing that's the ultimate solution is to comply.
I said
That's a
I'm sorry.
direct. Go ahead, Shelly.
No, it's okay. I'll remember it. I'm gonna keep it stuck in my head.
You sure?
Yeah.
They are the representation, because all of them voted for Biden. Okay, all of them voted for Biden, and I went back to the show where she said Biden was leveling the playing field.
Wise didn't vote for Biden.
Okay.
He didn't vote. And he had
So the older the older, out of touch Black Democrats vote for their oppressor while complaining about the oppressor. They also victimize and brutalize their own while complaining about brutality against them. You do it to yourselves. You sell Black people out. You tell them, pull yourself up by the bootstrap if you want to go to a different school, but don't let a Republican tell you that, because then it's racist. I've heard so many say that. I grew up with that mentality of when you make it out and you don't go back for anybody. And that's what they represent. Lavetta told on herself. She told on herself when we brought up school choice. Sorry, I needed to take a drink. Go ahead, Shelley.
Go for it,
I
Shelley.
just wanted to add to what Russo said. Like, it made a really good point, and it's been kind of stuck. I said it earlier, but you weren't on the show. I said, because you were talking about complying, the percentages of people dying when they comply is less than 1%. Literally less than 1%. I also said, make it make sense that you are terrified, right? That is the narrative. Terrified of the police. Then why are there so many fights with the police? Why are there so many interactions with the police if you are terrified? Because if I'm terrified, I'm going to comply. Because I fear for my life and I know that they're racist and they're going to fucking kill me just because of the color of my skin.
Mm.
It doesn't make sense in my head. At least in my head, it doesn't make sense to me. You're literally saying one thing in one breath and something in another breath. And two is just not meeting. I feel like they're doing core math. 1 + 1 is 3.
You handled it well, Russo. I would have, a few things they said, I would have been like, do you not see me in the room? Do you not see this other white person here? You just really what you gonna say right now?
Yeah, I don't know how you did it, man. I tried.
Russo,
No.
Russo, if you look at the comments, I put your name, like I tagged you a bunch of time, and I put like clapping hands because I was like, yes. I was like, quit them. I was like, yes. Because I was like,
I did have
like
one.
we did,
I
you
had
know,
one
like a
solid
boss.
mic dropper in there. I remember there was one where I was like, "Oh, that one
No,
felt
you
good."
You had a lot.
I remember 3 of them where I put like clapping hands, and I was like,
I'll have to watch it.
I was like, that's what I'm talking about. Boom.
This is one part that I struggle with because it was so weird. Like she was very good at gaslighting the conversation about stuff that had nothing to do with it. When she brought up Biden, I was like, so she goes, and that's what, like, out of all the different conversation points, if you touch this bone one more time, I'm gonna shank you, Woody. So she talked about equality and how all these different things and building towards it. And then she goes, and that's why I like Joe Biden for this country and why he's doing a great job. And I was like, well, that took a weird left turn.
Why the fuck you lying? Why you always lying? Oh my God. Stop fucking lying.
Sorry, she was lying, bro. She was lying.
I was like, so then I asked a question, have you, and it's like, if you're, I don't, she used like literally the Democrat speaking points of, well, he's leveling the playing field. How? He's just, and you know, how's he leveling the play? Well, he's got the program that does no, he has nothing. Do you know
the thing? The
thing, man. Come on, man.
We said it at the same time, Sudi. The thing.
Do you guys follow what's his name? Umar Johnson, I think.
Yeah. Yes.
I mean, he's got a lot of hate built up, but he's also incredibly well-versed intellectual man. And he was on the Breakfast Club this last week talking shit about Joe Biden. And he's like, what really, like, Joe Biden used us, as he said, he's like, if you ain't black and you ain't voting for, then you got to vote for Joe Biden. So he's like, weirdest thing. He comes into office day one. He signs an executive order for LGBTQ. And he goes, cool, you can do, that's fine. That's great. And then after a month and a half, there's a huge order on stopping Asian hate because, he goes, and they've been going through it for a year, but, screw us, 400 years. And you literally wrote us to the ballot box and you're avoiding any hard conversations. And then he actually had a very interesting spin talking about other countries and making sure that he's staying close with the Asians and making sure that the Indian trade is not like actually the country India and how that stays strong, because in the end it benefits him and Iran and all these different things. And he goes, he has to not give a shit about the black community except for to get votes. And he's like, how effed up is it that he came on your show, Charlemagne? He came on your show and said, you ain't black unless you vote for Joe Biden. And then he hasn't done a damn thing. Except for get mad about police officers killing a black person that was trying to stab somebody else, or, you know, whatever, or the 13-year-old that was holding a gun. Like, not a single thing except for add to the racist and racially charged rhetoric. He hasn't leveled any playing field. I don't know what the F she was talking about.
Nope, he has not. He has continued his whole unity and time to heal literally went out the door. Like, as soon as he said it, I think the next said, like, right out the door. I've not seen any unity. I've not seen any time to heal. If anything, it's more of division, more of his like typical Democrat politics.
Well, it's not his. It's whatever the script writer writes, you know.
Yeah, and then I loved how Levita was like, oh, well, racism means, and, you know, whatever it is to me, like in that situation. I was like, wait, the definition doesn't change, sis, because you think it changes. So that was one of the mic drops for you too. Like the definition, when talking about the definition of racism. And she tried to spin that into whatever and then she tried to like laugh about when you're like, you were saying all the sources where you got it from. And when you said Webster, she's like, oh, well, there you go.
And then Webster's is racist.
How could Webster be racist? It's a short black guy. Come on, man.
And then she continued to like try to prove her point. And then when you were talking about something, she was like, oh, well, tonight, Anthony, she's like, you're going to go to bed and God's going to make you like kind of replay this conversation. All this. And I was like, wait a second, why are you just pointing out Anthony? I was like, because he's white. And he's dropping truth bombs on your ass, period.
Dog,
I was just like...
I also like the ability to prove the point that because Casey wasn't talking much, which like there was enough people talking, I get it. And then once you left, it was technically 1 against 4. And I wanted to prove that if you have logic and fact, you can still win an argument with common sense. And it's not about winning. I hate it. I really don't. It wasn't the point. But you know, it's just having. Hey, what's going on, Mac baby? It's just it's being able to stand your ground without getting upset, because in all reality, the funny thing is she kept saying that thing at the end. She's like, maybe tonight you're gonna go home and you're gonna think about what I said. I'm like, I 100%. I'll think about what you said, but what's your point? You there?
Nothing.
There was no point. That's the thing. Like literally, she's like, we just got to talk about race. That's the point. I go, what's the point?
And then I think there was a part early in the show, like they were talking about racism, and they were talking about like the whole land and 40 acres and a mule and reparations. And it's like, it really drives me crazy because they act like just because you're educated and just because you have, I can't tell you how many times she mentioned she's an educated Black woman and she has a master's degree from Indoctrination Central. I'm like, just because you are educated you're educated in what they want you to learn. It doesn't mean you're necessarily educated in anything. And then when they talk even about racism, like when I don't remember who the show mentioned it, like when they talked about racism against like other races, and right away it was like don't want to talk about it. It's not the same. It's not the same. You know, it's not the same. It's different. I was like, wait a second, like, and it really drives me crazy because they claim to be so educated. Like I could accept that if you're not trying to say, hey, I'm educated, so I know A, B, C, and D, but you're trying to say that you are super educated and prove a point to people, but you're really not, because you're saying racism for Blacks is different than it was for anyone else. And
Dude.
like my counter argument to them every time is like, do you know anything about slavery in Puerto Ricans? I want to talk about it. Let's talk about it. How is it different? Me point that it was different. And they
Nothing.
never can. They never
That's
can.
why I asked them straight up, is America only is race the slavery in America is only exclusive to black people? And when they said
what
yes,
I'm talking about, that point.
I was like, so you're telling me that there were no slaves before black folks came here? You're telling me that the ruling class didn't enslave peasants and have them serving them? It was only synonymous to black folks, and only the black folks were treated like shit.
Well, because their families were separated. Only their families were separated. Nobody else was separated, just theirs. That's the point that you were talking about when I was like, wait a second, like, I don't know. I hate when they talk about equality and they talk about equity because they mean two different things. Words matter. We should be fighting for equality for all people, not equity. It drives me crazy, to be honest.
Words do matter. Same with definitions by a guy named Webb.
She was
Exactly.
switching.
That actually, the whole
switching.
conversation started with Wise. Wise and I were the one that got into like a debate or an argument over the term racist. And it's like, I've heard it. Curtis and I have had the same conversation. He shows me this older white woman that teaches classes on
Jane.
race. Yeah.
Jane.
Yeah. And she indoctrinates this concept of how horrible it is to be black. I'm like, y'all realize you're listening to an old white woman tell you how impossible it is for a black man to make it in America, and you think she's helping you?
Mm-hmm.
Right. Just like when they're protesting and they're doing all these things, and you're allowing like Antifa, or you're like allowing white people to burn down black businesses. Make that make sense. How does that? You're talking about all these white people who have done all this shit to you, but yet you are allowing the so-called descendants of slaves burn shit down in your neighborhoods.
You know what Malcolm X said? He said, how do you get mad? Like, this is what he said. He said, how can we come from literal brutality only to brutalize our own? That sums up the black community. If you want to talk about slavery, let's go. We came from brutality only to just brutalize our own people. That's what else can we say? Well, white people do it too. Well, guess what? White people are not on TV asking for their lives to matter. I do this analogy all the time. When Bob, Jim, John, when they fuck up and they might get dealt with by police, they're like, hey, John should have known better. They don't put his name on flyers and go march around towns and raise hell. Not even for the white men that are unjustly killed by cops. You don't see white people doing that.
It's true. I agree with you.
Agreed.
That's it, man. I named this show Black Democrats Are Out of Touch with Reality. And I mean the older generation. I'm talking about my mother's generation, you know, the late civil rights era, maybe 3 or 4 years after civil rights was passed. They're stuck there. You know, my mom will still talk about how racist white women don't like her and we can't get a leg up in society. And it's like, wow. I've worked for a fair amount of companies in the tech industry, and I've made more than every white person on the floor because I literally had certs to help me make more than they do. So just imagine where black folks are. I'm coming from a place of, I'm trying to sympathize, but I'm only going to sympathize with so much. We've all been fed this BS, but we have a choice at the end of the day. And this is the age of information. There's no more excuses. This world is a perfect testament as to it's not racism. It's you. It all starts with you.
you and I, the one thing that you and I didn't agree on in that show, which is interesting, and I didn't bring it up because it wasn't worth the discussion in there. But it's the level. The word white privilege is a obviously hot topic word. I used to feel the same way as you. There's no such thing as white privilege. Look at me. I grew up poor, etc. Blah, blah, blah. Bullshit. So what's interesting is Elena even brought up something in the show that I continue to learn. So I actually did, starting last year, start to believe there is such thing as white privilege. Now, with that said, I don't think it's any different than it's just part of life. Like, it's one of those things that's just it adds a speed bump to success. It adds a speed bump to life. But I know, and she brought up Foot Locker, which is an analogy I use. I didn't even know what she was talking about the zip codes. Like, when they ask zip codes, it's like, oh, that's, definitely a kind of a racist part of society. I know that if I'm dressed halfway decent, when I was growing up, I was poor as shit. I could go into Foot Locker and nobody was going to look at me any different. Whereas a black kid, depending on how they're dressed, or pretty much honestly I know upstanding 13-year-olds that are dressed nice that are still going to be looked at differently than white kids. That's my definition of white privilege, which is very different than privilege. To call me privileged because I'm white is very different than the concept to me of white privilege. Like, white privilege is, I never, as a kid growing up, I never had to worry about going in a grocery store and thinking I was going to steal something. I didn't get ever pulled over once for like barely breaking the law, little things like that. But that's small percentages, and I can't speak to that. So that's why I avoid it. And I say, I get what white privilege is, but if you ever call me privileged, I will personally kick you in the shin, because that's bullshit. Because I know a lot of black people that may have been judged going into Foot Locker that didn't have to deal with the other myriad of shit I dealt with growing up. It's unfortunately part of life in an imperfect world. And as we all know, religiously, spiritually, godly, the devil runs the earthly world. And that's
Absolutely.
why it's evil. And it's not racial anymore. It might have been in the 60s and whatever. It's not racial. It's just evil and good.
Mm-hmm.
I don't believe in white privilege either. I just don't. That's just me. I have this conversation with my daughter. Actually, we spoke about it earlier, and we just have to agree to disagree, because we are not going to see eye to eye. I think that as far as racism, you guys kind of talked about that on the show. Like, do you think that other races can be racist? And they'll always come back with, no, if you're a minority, you cannot be racist. You can be prejudiced and you could have certain biases, but you can't be racist. And I call it bullshit. Let's call a spade a spade. Hey, if I'm saying the same thing about a white person that I'm saying about a black person, and it is based on their race, it is a racist remark. Like, I don't care if you're white, Hispanic. Like, we've had this thing with just amongst Latinos, Mexicans and Puerto Ricans. And in a time and age when I grew up, they couldn't fucking stand one another, period. They couldn't. And it's always been a thing. So I'm like, to say that that's not the definition, by definition, right? Because they want to, I think her name was Lita. She wanted to switch it to fit what she felt it was. And again, she wants to switch it based on her feeling, not based on the actual definition. So by definition, yes, of course, anyone else can be. And then you just kind of said something really quick where you said, oh, well, if people get stopped because they barely, I think you said barely broke the law. Is that what you said, Anthony?
Or didn't break the law.
Okay, well, see, that makes a difference though. Because when you say barely, that insinuates that they partially did.
Well, what I was saying is, like, if I go, this is like what I've noticed in my life. And again, this is all unique to my experience. If I go 7 miles per hour or less over the speed limit, I don't get pulled over. Whereas I know a couple of my black friends have been pulled over for going 2 or 3 miles per hour over the speed limit. So that's what I meant by barely breaking the law. And I also know some that were just pulled over for essentially being in an upper class white neighborhood. So I know that, but it ended just fine. It ended with like checking them out, and they were probably racially profiling in it. You know, it also depends on the community, depends on the police chief, depends on who's working that shift. There depends on so many different factors, in my opinion. But yes, that's what I meant by barely breaking the law. Not like only stole a bag of Skittles. Like, I mean, like barely traffic violation.
It's funny. My sister lives in Michigan. So I was literally taking my mom and my granddaughter to Michigan to visit my sister. And then I was coming right back. My sister's like 6 hours in, 6 hours back. And I had to work. So I was 1 mile over the speed limit and got pulled over. I was with my aunt. She took the drive with me. She wanted me to drive 12 hours by myself. And my aunt's like, oh, we're getting pulled over for driving while being Mexican. That was my aunt's first words to me. And I looked at her and I was like, the fuck? What's wrong with you? So I tell him, I said, hey, here's my license. Here's my insurance. And honestly, at the time, I didn't know why I was being stopped. Because, like, I'm like, 1 mile? Really? Like,
Why did you get stopped?
I was 1 mile over the speed limit.
So that was literally why you got stopped.
Yeah.
Yeah. See, us white folk don't have that problem.
So, well, I mean, but I'm thinking, like, if you look at me, like, he was driving kind of like next to me for a while. I'm like, I mean, I got a tan right now because I was in Mexico, but I look white as hell.
Yeah.
And I have bright green ass eyes. So I was like, wait a second. I don't know if that's why he stopped me. Like, maybe he did stop me. But anyways. So
what time of night was it?
What kind of what?
What time of night was it?
I think it was in actually. It was like around 4 p.m.
Okay. I will say,
like 4 p.m. in Michigan.
Like late night, I had the police scanner on one time on a late drive like 10 years ago when that app had just came out. And I remember it was like 2 a.m. Me and my other white dude, we were driving in a car and they were like, calling in plates, Texas, LR43. Like they were checking us out. Like obviously it's late at night and two dudes in a, piece of crap car. So maybe it's not. Maybe it's just profiling somebody that looks broke as shit.
Well, I don't know. I was like, so we got stopped, and I guess it was for like being over the speed limit. So I'm like, sorry, I'm rushing. I'm driving from Chicago, and I literally had to work that night. Like I had to work. I was working midnights, so I was like, I got like 4 hours to get home, shower, and go straight to work, like on zero sleep. So I even show him my ID, hoping for like some professional courtesy. Nope. $150 fucking ticket for 1 mile over the limit.
Shut up.
He was bored. Yo, that's a common thing in Virginia.
$150 ticket for
West
1 mile.
Virginia.
And even the ticket, I took pictures of it because I could not believe you gave me a ticket for 1 mile over the speed limit. I could tell you right now, if you guys are in Chicago, you're not getting pulled over for speeding because we don't got that fancy equipment. We don't do that
Russo,
shit.
I want to counter what you said,
Oh,
and maybe you can think about it. I'm gonna do you like Lavetta.
I'm
Sleep
like,
on
Russo,
it. What is that?
real, wait, I just tell him before I forget. I saw you drink Topo Chico. Do you know they got flavors now?
Is that that's got alcohol in it too?
Yes.
All right, that's my next trip to the grocery store.
Dude, they are so good. I'm not joking. They are better. White Claw don't got shit on this.
I don't like White Claw.
Ew.
All right.
Never had one, but it's disgusting. Okay, so you said white privilege exists in a sense of you don't necessarily have to deal with the unnecessary stereotypes because they don't judge you collectively as white people for a criminal, for what a criminal would do. They don't think that all white people are like that. Is that what you mean by your just viewpoint on what white privilege? You don't have to deal with the stereotypes that black folks do.
Yeah.
Okay. Here's my counter, right? We as a community allow these stereotypes to be real. So if a cop, if I am a law-abiding citizen, just me, I'm gonna dress as such. I'm not gonna walk around looking sloppy, looking like I just rolled out the bed. My hair might be nappy. I'm not gonna let my son walk around with his hair all in naps, halfway down his ass, looking crazy. Wouldn't that tell you this is a person I don't want in my store, even though they might not be exactly what that stereotype presents. They could be completely good. They could be a law-abiding citizen, but you don't look as such.
Yeah.
Well, my question is like, because you mentioned just Foot Locker. I don't know what Foot Locker is looking at everybody else's state, but I can tell you what the Foot Locker employees look like in my state.
But
Black.
And Black and Latino.
Yeah, I've never seen
Look
it.
up. And
I've
they're
never
young,
really seen
and they're
white.
young. They wear their pants off their ass too. I'm not joking. I have one on my beat. So I go in there, and so I'm like, I don't understand like why they would be judging anybody, because their ass is.
I'm talking more when I was growing up. When back then it was not like that. It was more, it was different. Which, it brings up, we keep saying black, and it brought up a very interesting point that I wanted to, but I'm like, this is a whole nother rabbit hole, because Lovetta was very big on saying African American.
Oh, you don't know how bad I wanted to educate her.
If you want to say African American, cool. If you want to say black, I don't give a shit. But what's so funny about stressing the importance of her rhetoric and then throwing the African American out there historically is like, you're actually perpetrating a bullshit, complete lie. That was a marketing campaign. What was it by? Who was it in the 80s? Was it Sharpton that started that shit?
Jesse Jackson.
Jesse Jackson started that shit. Yeah.
Yep. You know what he said? We don't know where we come from. We were brought here. The same BS that what's his name? B Wise. We were brought here. This wasn't our language. They gave us. Come on, bro. That was so long ago.
Yeah, it wasn't our language. Maybe that's why they don't know the definition of the word.
Well, when people talk about like, I love when they start talking about, oh, well, we're African Americans. So I'm thinking, if you know history, right? Because she's so educated. If you know history, not every African American was a slave. So therefore, how do we know which African Americans are going to get 40 acres and a mule?
That would have made her head explode.
I actually said that part at the very end. I was like,
oh, I missed it.
I go on top of it. Like, who actually gets the 40 acres? Who gets this version of reparations? Like how far back? Because I think B Wise said it, and I was like, based on what Wise just said about how this happened to him 160 years ago. Like, I go, how do you know that your family was slave traders? He's like, I know. I go, then how do we know everybody? Like, who do we pick out? Who do we qualify? Because what if you're mixed from the slave owner and the slave owner and the slave? So that means half of you is an asshole, and half of you is the oppressed. So you literally have oppressed and oppressor blood in you. So what do you think? Like, I don't know. You should maybe just high five yourself.
That was a good one. I missed one, Andy.
Mic drop.
Period. And now, how do you know? I'm sorry. Go ahead, Simon.
This lady, Antonia, she
Zakor.
frequents my comment section. You said most blacks are law-abiding, employed, educated, God-fearing, family-oriented, in spite of any racism or white privilege, whether Republican or Democrat. This is what I mean by the older generation being out of touch, because over 80% of our homes are headed by a black woman. There are no more family units. In fact, when you start talking about it, you know what black women say? Thank you, Kevin Samuels. I'd rather be a baby mom.
Baby mama.
You guys are so far out of touch with reality and what's actually here. That old school mindset is outdated to people. They look down on it. I've had black women tell me, yo, you're a slave. You stay home and take care of your kids. Oh, you wash dishes. Oh, you wash your husband's clothes too. Girl. I got to go out and get my own money. No, ma'am.
No.
I can even pull workforce statistics up for you. We dominate in the CNA industry, transportation, state, and the what is it called? Where you eat? Food industry, restaurant, waitresses, waiters. We don't
Service
show up.
industry.
There you go. We don't show up in these industries that require a 4-year education and master's degree. Don't do that. No, we don't. That's why we're complaining about a wealth gap now, because we don't show up in those high-paying industries because we don't go to school for it. Because school is not something that's important anymore. It's definitely not stress. Education, absolutely not.
You know what I wanted to ask Lavita? Because like when there were hard questions for her, she kind of diverted and started talking about like other nations.
Mhm.
And then she made sure that she, instead of just talking about Black Americans, she wanted to go into African Americans. And I wanted to ask her, well, currently in Africa, there are 700,000 slaves. What are you doing for them? Since you
Ooh.
want to talk about all these other nations. I really
they're
wanted to drop that. I really wanted to drop that question on her.
I just want to know, did you guys actually see, and this is what I tried asking them at the end, and really only Wise answered the question. Did you see Marcellus Wiley go off on,
Yes.
I don't watch any of that crap anymore, but I watched the replay of that, and he literally was like, why is it that all these, and I said it on my rant the day before that, but Marcellus Wiley said it following up, and I was like, yes, thank you. Why is it that all these people that have made it don't say how they did it? And LeBron doesn't count because you can't be like, oh, you got to be 6'9" and shoot a 3 like nobody's business. But like the successful business owners that maybe make $150,000 a year, the ones that have, you know, that have gotten out of the poverty levels, have gotten upper middle class, instead of talking about how it's so difficult and impossible, which psychologically, to anybody that knows anything about psychology and mindset, is the worst thing you could do to a human being. So why don't you continue to tell people? And Lavita started out her point like, I do, but never said how she did. Like, it's if you want to, like, that is the worst. It's they don't, in the community, when people make it out in the Black community, from what I've seen and what I've been told by Black people, some Black people that I know that are very much left now, further left than they used to be, they're the ones that taught me what the hermit crab mentality is in the Black community. Where if you're going to get out and you start to get out, you get pulled back in because they don't want anybody else to succeed.
Absolutely.
And that's why you've got people that are educated like Lavita that will take 90% of their time talking about the plight of the Black man instead of the success of the Black man.
Yes.
Correct.
Absolutely.
And then when you do talk, when you brought up a very well-known Black man, he was discounted because of the fact that he's a Republican.
And he was put in the wrong position. I didn't want to talk about the fact that we've got a health director that doesn't believe in science and literally.
Oh man.
No, exactly. I think that is a big reason why successful Black people don't talk about rising up, because people are going to shut them down.
I'm just going to be real with you.
They're going to be called the Uncle Tom.
I'm just going to be real with you. That is why I would never invest back in my hometown. That's why. No money is going to fix that. You know, it's going to fix that accountability and love. They don't accept love. They would rather have pity, feel bad for me, feel sorry for me. I'm Black. I can relate. I understand why we don't go back. I really do. I'm going to get the people that I know want to do something. I'll work with you, but the rest of you, I'm good. I'm straight. And you get ridiculed for that. And nobody can understand why. How many times are they going to fix up government housing for them to just get destroyed 5 to 6 years later? It doesn't make sense.
I told you about the dude in in Cleveland, the Black guy that came by the conversation I was having about being, you know, a Trump voter. Oh man, I thought I was going to get my ass kicked. So So I'm wearing my Be the Change stuff, and these people I was having a conversation with, it was like midnight in the hotel lobby, people that worked in my industry in the auto show industry. And they were like, oh, we don't want to bring up politics because we saw Be the Change and we thought you must have been a liberal. And I was like, oh God, I wasn't bringing it up because I thought you guys were liberals. Like, because we didn't want to have the conversation. So we started talking, and I was in my 2 minutes on why I was a Trump voter and why I had, left being, liberal or being a Democrat. And this big black dude, like only like 5'10", but just built like a tank, comes around and he like walks past, and I did the typical, like in my head, like, yeah, so I mean, like the reason, like I got much lower, and then I'm continuing to talk, and then all of a sudden, dude busts around the corner, and I'm like, oh God, here we go. Like I puff up, and he goes, bro, I want you to know something. I heard what you said, and I agree with every fucking word out of your mouth. And it started a conversation, and he goes, I've become a Trump voter myself. He shook my hand, and he talked about why. He goes, I work predominantly in the black community. I own my own business. He goes, Obama almost destroyed my business. He goes, based on the certain things I had to pay for healthcare, he almost destroyed black owned businesses, like the ones that are just finally starting to make something of themselves. He was forcing them to pay for healthcare. Obamacare almost ended him, but he found a way to get through it, make it work. And he goes, and now the worst part is, he goes, the programs that are still in place from the Obama era, this kind of welfare thing, because he did construction into not the HUD homes, but essentially the low income. He did all the low income work, and he had his own thing, and he would actually go on the jobs. And the black community assumed this is a black man, he must be working for somebody else. So he's working for somebody. So they would tell him everything, and he was the owner of the company. So they would literally. He goes, I'm going in these homes that are getting government assistance to get shit fixed, to get, not decks put on, but, the roof fixed or this fixed. I walk in, you got 3 20 to 35-year-old age black males that could be working, that are all collecting unemployment or welfare and not doing anything, and have brand new cars outside because they're using those checks to buy brand new whips and all these different things. And he goes, and they kept talking about how F the government, they don't help us and all these things. And he goes, all of them could choose to get work and they choose not to because they make more money if they didn't work than working in their own communities. And he's like, it's a joke. He goes, it's become a complete joke. I almost lost my business because of Democratic policies, and I've kept it, and I've seen how it's getting abused. And him and I made friends real quick, and I didn't get my ass kicked. So that's a positive.
See, there's so many black people like him that we can't call it out, and it sucks because I want the black community to get better, but we're never going to do that. Like, look at this. These are literally workforce statistics and percentages where black people show up in droves, and they're all state provided jobs. Every single one of them, outside of working in hospitality and the nursing industry, CNAs. If you go all the way back up here to like CEOs and manager positions, 9%. 9% of all those workers are black.
Which is actually the population. That's the population split.
But still.
Within a point or two.
Why dominate in all these other state-provided jobs and ignore the other ones? Like farmers and ranchers, we don't even show up.
So how the hell, if there's only 1% of farmers and ranchers, what the are you going to do with 40 acres? Okay, you're literally going to look at it and not know what to do with it.
No, exactly. I agree 100%. I just think, I don't know. I'm tired of the blame game, to be honest. I just really am.
Me too, man.
And I know people think right away, like, oh, you're just not empathetic. No, I am empathetic and I am sympathetic, but I also do not believe that if I fall to the floor, that the best place for me to stay is there. That is not the best place for me to stay. And I'm not going to teach my kids that they can't, and that they can have things because of the color of their skin, etc., 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 etc. I'm just not doing it.
I'm just showing you guys this so you can see these are the raw numbers, and these are the areas where we're showing up in massive numbers, and it's mediocrity. You're going for mediocrity, so you're going to get mediocre results. If you want to make a large amount of money, invest in yourself, get behind it, and keep going. You know how many times I've failed on a show and I can come back and bounce back and grow 1,000 times from messing up on the show. I didn't quit.
Cassie,
I don't know, black folks.
Is this and because she had a point, and I we've talked. So I used to own a staffing agency for promo models, and like there, like, and I do believe that there's a little bit of prejudice in everybody's brain, and that, you know, we all have
Yes.
deep-seated, you know, thoughts. So she's right. When there's a name that comes across as African American or Black,
Yes.
whatever, automatically, and it's also based on personal experience.
Yep.
Knowing in my industry, hard cold facts, I would be staffing anywhere from 20 to 80 people a weekend. And once the industry started becoming more Black, I would be hiring 50% Black, 50% white. If you want the statistics on no-call, no-shows between races, I think we can know exactly where it goes. And that's and by ever bringing that up, I was told, you know, oh, that's racist. And I didn't bring it up to very many people. I'm like, it can't be racist if it's based in fact. It's hard for me to say, if I have 3 no-call, no-shows out of 20, which is a pretty high, I had a pretty good statistic. But say there's 3 people that no-call, no-show. Out of those 3, it would typically be either 2 Black and 1 white, or 3 Black and no white. So it's just like it came to it where it's like I continued to hire because we had to, and that's also the smart thing to do, because it's good to have a diverse staff, and also some of the best people I ever had work for me. Actually, probably the best of the best. There's nothing in the promotional and event world. There's nothing better than a Black dude or Black chick that's got passion, spirit, that, you know, like that more flavor. They get into what they're doing. But from a larger standpoint, the accountability was much lower from Black workers to white workers. And the question then becomes, like she said, she's like, I was passed over for jobs and this because of my name. And it's like, I get it. And there's unfortunately a stereotype and a racial bias rooted in racism and rooted in observation, a couple different things. And the other question is, name or not, I'm not going to hire somebody that bastardizes the English language to fit their, I mean, in all reality, if you just because you read a book, you can change definitions of words. That's not somebody that form of logic is somebody that I wouldn't want working for me, because if push came to shove and work, like shit hit the fan and we had to have a real discussion, your logic is so far from anything that's reality. I wouldn't want you working for me. I don't care if your name is Karen or Shanetta.
I agree. And you know what cracks me up is like about these people too. Like when we talk about
whoa, what do you mean these people, Shelly? I didn't say that. I didn't say that.
I'll say it, minorities. I'll say it. Shit. So when we get into like those conversations and then they continue to talk about like white privilege, or they throw that term around loosely, that's my biggest problem with it, is that they throw it around loosely. So, but you're the same people, I mentioned that earlier, like you'll let Antifa stand side by side with you and burn shit down, right? So, and the only reason I bring this up is the other day I was dealing with a job in a Hispanic community, right? It was a mom, she had 2 minors, she's a Hispanic woman, a 5-year-old. We know the father of the child, who happens to be Hispanic as well. He just got out of jail for crushing her skull. She literally has a metal plate in her head. He did 18 months in jail for it. Okay. So of course she lives in a shelter. She gets a weekend pass here. If you get a weekend pass from like a women's shelter, you can't go back till a certain time. So it was Sunday. She couldn't go back till 6 o'clock at night. Her and him get into this big ass argument. He steals her wallet, her phone. So a bunch of us respond because we know him. He is very aggressive, etc. So of course, people that you know, a bunch of people are going to respond. We're standing there. We're dealing with her. She has 2 babies in a buggy. We're talking. Now, mind you, I've said repeatedly, the people that I work with are predominantly Black and Latino. So mind you, there's probably 10, because we work 1-man units on days. So they're always gonna, so it's like there's a bunch of squatters, but there's really only this many people. So I want to say there was one white officer on scene, literally one out of 10 of us. The majority were Latino, and we had 2 Black officers actually respond to this job. We're standing there. He had ran off, but we're making sure that while she gets the report and we get her stuff together, that this guy doesn't come back, because it happens, right? This gentleman, who happens to be white, comes out of his residence and says to the police, "Oh, you guys have nothing fucking better to do?" So one of the officers, who is Latino, looks at him and smiles and tries to joke with him and says, "Oh, we're having a party and you weren't invited, but it's okay, you're here now." Right? And then he's like, "Oh," he mumbles, he walks away. No, he before he walks away, he says, "Well, can you guys move this shit down the street?" So the officer says, "Sir, we are in the middle of a police investigation. You know what I wanted to do? I wanted to turn that shit around on them. And I wanted to say I didn't say it, but I wanted to say it. I wanted to say, excuse me, sir, are you trying to tell us not to help this woman of color with her 2 minor children? Is that what you're saying to us, sir? You don't want, I think the rest of your community would be highly offended that you don't want us helping a woman of color in front of your house. I think they would consider that racist." That's what I wanted to say to him, but I didn't. So anyways, so we eventually help her out. And then now, mind you, when I tell you I work with amazing people, she couldn't get back into her shelter. So 6 o'clock Sunday, it was really chilly here, 2 babies. He stole her wallet. He stole all her stuff. One of the officers says to her, "We can take you. There's a McDonald's right down the street," and gives her money to get her baby some food. And he says, "Hey, get them out of the cold. They have a play place. They could play, and get them some food." Those are the people that I work with. So this guy comes back out. He has a scooter in his yard. He takes it out. So now he's opening the gate and kind of forcing us to move over so he can get his scooter and park it on the sidewalk. So he's mumbling under his breath. We're eventually giving all the paperwork that she needs, making sure that she's okay if she wants to ride with the babies, etc. People are starting to leave. An ambulance was called. We were making space for the ambulance as well. So we're about to leave. So he's mumbling. So I say to her, "Good luck to you. If you need anything, please call us back." I say to him, "Have a nice day, sir." And I walk away, right? And I wasn't being sarcastic or condescending. I said, "Have a nice day." When I turn around, he says, "Fuck you," and gives me the middle finger. I'm not bothered to continue to walk. I don't care. So one of the officers, who's Latino, happens to see him and says, "Hey," the same one who's trying to joke with him. And he's like, "You're number 1 too." He says to the guy.
Oh my goodness.
The guy says to him, "Oh, I fucking love you guys," but real condescending. So the officer said, "You know what? And we fucking love you too." It was so hilarious. But I swear the whole time I'm thinking, wait a second, he had the whole BLM thing in his window. We noticed that afterwards because we were focused on dealing with her. But I'm thinking, you're literally talking to a bunch of Latino and Black officers who are in uniform. So you just don't like us because of our uniform. And we're trying to help a Hispanic woman with 2 babies. And so which side are you on? You know what I mean? The mentality is not right with me. Are you trying to help the woman? You want her away from your property.
They don't understand themselves. They're like, "All police are bad. Orange Man bad. That's it."
Well, but even if it's not just about us, right? Because we're obviously in the middle of an investigation and we're trying to help this woman. But that's what with some of these people I don't understand. You hate us because of our uniform. I don't care if you hate me. You can hate me all day. You can motherfuck me from here to Kingdom Come. I'm good with it. My feelings don't get hurt, really. But this woman is out here and she's like, oh, I'm sorry. We'll move. And I was like, no, we're good. We're going to make sure you're good first. And then we're going to move, you know, that he can deal with it when he's, you know, like he's not in a rush to go anywhere.
I'm about to shake it up. I just shake it up before I go. I just came across something on Instagram, and I wanted to bring this up to what's her name? I wanted to bring this up to yeah. Is that her name? I thought it was Lavetta.
Lavita. Living La Vida Loca.
Where's it at? Here we go. Hold on, let me put it on my Facebook real quick.
Literally, Anthony.
She pulled my game on me at the end. She's like, you need to stop listening to talk and just listen. I'm like, I don't know if you know this, but I've been listening the whole time. I'm just very quick to respond because I have a fast moving brain because this is what I do.
Because it's a white brain.
Oh, that's right. I have, yep.
You're far superior. You didn't know?
Mm-hmm.
This is what we need to be talking about in our community.
Wait, what is that?
This is 3 little boys dressed as girls.
Is it what, a magazine or what the fuck?
Just a picture. Angela Stan put this up. I wanted to bring up, you know, because I think this is an alarming issue. I think it's leading us right into the place where we don't reproduce anymore. It's leading us to we're not going to have to abort our children anymore because they're slowly but surely pushing this agenda. And men dress like women now. And little boys. But police brutality is the alarming issue. Blaming the past is why we're stuck where we are. They represent the older liberal generation. Ooh, are you good?
Yeah, I pinched the shit on myself. Sorry.
No, they represent that older generation that's keeping us stuck. Because if you think about it, if leaders like Al Sharpton would stand up and say, no, this is not the more pressing issue. We need to fix what's happening in our communities. Don't you think more Black people would be open to even discussing those topics? They are responsible for where we are. They won't stand up for what's right, and they're leading us to the slaughterhouse. Racism is bullshit. There are too many good white and Black people for that to even be a reality, especially in America. Like, that doesn't rock with me. And anybody that's talking that old slave, Negro, militant mentality, bro, I'm coming against you. That is why I did the show, to specifically talk about the real issues, not Jim Crow, not the legacy of slavery. We can't blame the legacy of slavery because other civilizations have been enslaved and they don't act like the Black community does. They also didn't respond the same way to welfare state. There have been a lot of civilizations that have implemented that. It works in some places. It didn't. The only case where it really didn't work is the Black community. So just think about that. Take that thought and go marinate on it before you want to talk about racism and the legacy of slavery. You need to explain all the other legacies of slavery and why you turned out this way. I think that's fair.
I turned out this way because I'm 6'2", tall, dark, handsome. A lot of things going for me.
You're dark where?
Definitely
Don't ask.
Above the belt. Definitely above.
Why the fuck you lying? Why you always lying?
You said I'm dark.
Oh, you don't want to see. I if I'm in the sun I'll be going to Costa Rica later this month because white privilege. But I'll be going to Costa Rica this month next month. I will come back I'll look like you, Suni. Actually, I'll be as tan as Cash.
What? Go ahead, do it.
I'm Italian, bro. I get dark fast.
Uh-oh, are you a Guido?
I'm like, yeah, fishbowl buffet. Hey, forget about it. You gotta have Jewish can get dark too. So my mom can tan real fast. My dad used to baby oil and iodine was his sun tanning, and he was like, if he didn't go in the sun for 3 days, he'd be like, "Hey, yo, he's from Jersey, like I look like milk and cheese," and he's literally like twice as tan as Shelly is right now, and he'd be like, I'm faded. He was dark.
Well,
I actually
hope you come
tan
back
really
black.
well.
Come back black so that we can have these conversations and people won't get mad.
Yeah, they won't tell you to sleep on it because
And
you're
technically,
white.
it's not blackface because you listen. Your melanin is popping. Just
I
saying.
saw what you posted. How is this not blackface? You know, the one thing we didn't get to talk about that, and this is the last. I gotta go, but this is the last thing. God, it was so funny. The one I sent you.
What?
The screenshot of that of what to me the greatest threat against humanity is this one woman on social media.
Oh, Russo's always sending me the worst of the worst of just human race.
But this is that friend of mine's friend. Like she is the biggest fan of it. Like, this chick's got it going on. She knows what's up. She's literally like 10% black and talks about how horrible the black plight is. This post made me want, and she's considered like a racism specialist, melanin appropriation. That's funny.
According to who?
Yeah,
Who's giving these people these accolades?
A bunch of white liberal women that date black men. They're like, "That's my girl."
Basic female, bro.
Is this the girl that's married to the? Is she the one that's married to the black guy?
Yeah, this is her friend though that like has these posts. What the hell did I do with it? I gotta read it. It was too good.
Birds of a feather, Russo.
Are you ready for this, Shelly?
Go ahead.
Fine. If you're newish here, I usually start any anti-racist education with one hard truth. If you can accept this statement, you are ready to learn/unlearn. All white people, spelled WHYTE, all white people are racist. All white people hold racial bias. That is your starting point. This is true even for those who consider themselves woke.
So she just admitted to being racist because all white people have racial. Okay, so she's racist. What's her name? Can we get her on the show? Will she come on the show? Do you think so?
She might respond to you, not me.
Okay.
I doubt she'll. I mean, I've commented twice, like saying like this is the most racist thing I've heard all day. But yeah,
guys, we're gonna hop off here. I had to do a show. I'm sorry. Those old people irritated me, and that's why I said, can you guys like get out of the way and just allow us to step into the leaders of the community, because you've been doing it for 57 years and you failed. Like you failed. And not even a small F, bro, a big ass F. You failed.
Failed.
Bye, guys.